You ever see a highlight clip and think that's career-ending energy, but the headline that follows is somehow worse? Jamar Chase, one of the NFL's brightest, most electric playmakers, is about to miss a game, and it's not for injury. It's because he's been suspended for spitting at Jalen Ramsey, an incident that will cost him more than $500,000 and hand the Cincinnati Bengals one more headache in a season already leaking steam. Reuters, let's not pretend this is small. The league upheld a one-game suspension after video surfaced showing Chase spitting in Ramsey's direction. That video flipped a late-game scuffle into something the NFL couldn't ignore, and an appeals officer agreed the conduct crossed the line. This isn't a fine. This is a formal discipline that removes him from the field and from his paycheck, Reuters. How much are we talking? The math here slaps. Chase will forfeit his weekly game check of $448,333 and an active game bonus of $58,823, a total haircut of $507,156 for the missed game. That's not locker room pocket change. That's rent, college savings, endorsements, and a reminder that actions have immediate, very public consequences in professional sports. ESPN.com, if you only caught the 10-second clip, here's the broader canvas. The incident happened late in Cincinnati's 34-12 loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers, a game that already had the Bengals on their heels. Ramsey was ejected after he threw a punch at Chase, a reaction he says was provoked by being spat on, and the game quickly became about the scuffle rather than the scoreboard. The optics were ugly, and the league acted. Reuters. Now let's put the punishment next to the player. Chase is not just another wideout. He's been one of the league's most reliable weapons this season. He's leading Cincinnati with 79 catches for 861 yards and 5 touchdowns. Those numbers don't just show volume. They show that when the Bengals need a play, Jamar is often the answer. Losing that production, even for one game, matters. And it matters in a season where the Bengals are treading thin. ESPN.com, which brings us to the clubhouse effect. The Bengals are 3-7 and bruised. They're trying to manage injuries, headlines, and the slow drip of a season that hasn't gone according to plan. Whether Joe Burrow's return timeline or a defense that can't stop anybody, the roster has enough problems without a suspension for one of its marquee players. Teams measure risk in many ways: talent, availability, and any distraction that forces more questions than answers. This suspension is a 3-for-1 on that score. Reuters, let's be honest about human behavior, because narratives go sideways fast. Spitting is gross, it's unsportsmanlike, and frankly a line a lot of people say they would never cross. But there's also the instinct to read every incident as either a moral failing or a calculated provocation. In Chase's case, he initially denied the claim, and then came the video. From a disciplinary lens, footage removes wiggle room. From a PR lens, it reduces sympathy. From a teammate's perspective, it creates friction. None of that helps a club trying to salvage a season. CBS News. There are two common fan reactions you'll see all weekend: the sanctimonious moralizing and the boys will be boys shrug. Neither helps us understand the consequences. The morals matter because players are role models for millions. The pragmatics matter because the NFL is an ecosystem where behavior, money, and outcomes are visibly tied together. A $500K forfeiture is not just punitive. It's a market signal that certain actions will cost you dearly beyond social media chirps. ESPN.com, from a tactical standpoint, how do the Bengals cope Sunday? They'll have to rework game plans, redistribute targets, and hope the remainder of their receiving corps steps up. The offense will need schematic adjustments more than heroics, putting more emphasis on quick reads, using mismatches, and perhaps leaning on a committee approach. It's a short-term fix, but in the NFL, short-term can decide seasons. Coaches will preach discipline and focus, pundits will amplify the chaos. The truth lands somewhere in between. Reuters. There's also a rebuild-level message for players and agents here. Reputation carries monetary value. In an era of guaranteed contracts, NIL deals, and social media sponsorships, a public lapse that leads to suspension and forfeited pay can ripple across endorsement opportunities. Teams note red flags, sponsors note headlines. If this were a one-off, it could be repaired with contrition and consistent behavior. But repeated flashes of poor judgment turn into long memories. That's not moralizing, that's accounting. ESPN.com. Now for the nuanced lovers. Some will argue the punishment is harsh given historical treatment of similar infractions. Spitting sometimes resulted in fines, not suspensions. The league's stance here, though, was about precedent and optics, and the video's clarity likely pushed it over the threshold. Appeal processes exist, and Chase did appeal, but the hearing officer upheld the suspension. So the league has already signaled where it stands on this particular kind of misconduct. Reuters. Where does this leave Jamar Chase as a person and as a player? He's still among the best receivers in the game. The stats don't lie. But his actions now add a chapter to how teams, fans, and sponsors evaluate him. The repair narrative is simple in one sense and difficult in another. Own the mistake, show consistent behavior, and let performance on the field be the louder story. That's boring, but it's the only playbook that works long term. ESPN.com, if you're watching this play out, don't let outrage be your only response. Hold players accountable, sure, but also remember that redemption is a real thing in sports. It's how legends become legends. Whether Chase writes that chapter will depend on the next few weeks, how he behaves publicly, how he plays once cleared, and whether his actions match the contrition he shows. Sports will always be about talent, but increasingly it's also about temper. That's no coincidence. That's the price of being noticed. Final line. Talent gets you on the field. Discipline keeps you there. And right now, Jamar Chase has to do the hard work of proving the two still belong on the same resume.